Founded in 1991 by patients, the FSHD Society is the largest grassroots network of FSHD patients, their families, and research activists. The FSHD Society offers a community of support, news, and information for the millions of people affected by FSHD worldwide. This is FSHD Society Radio. Welcome, one and all, to the FSHD Society Radio Show. We have another episode lined up and ready for your listening, and I guess some of you watching eyes and ears. So thanks for joining us, being here. How do you get in touch with me? The show, you can do that through email is the best way, fshdradio@fshdsociety.org. You can reach me during the show because I'll be trying to watch along with you, as well as after. Get a lot of great and amazing stories, responses, and connections that way. I'm always welcome for that information from you, either feedback from the show, tell me a little bit about yourself, or if you just want to connect. I'm here beyond just the show. I'd love to hear from the listeners, the community. Partly why I'm here. The other part is also we got to thank our sponsors. Perkin Elmer, Optum, and Fulcrum Therapeutics are our sponsors. We'll hear more about what they have to offer you, the community, as we go through the show, but always welcoming our sponsorship because they're a huge part of why this show can air every month and now twice a month, because you can find these types of episodes where we really kind of dig deep and have a longer type episode and have that community connection with our guests. And then we have hot off the press episodes that are the other, I think they're like on Thursdays at the end of the month, that we get those little snippets of knowing what is the FSHD Society doing, what's going on, kind of that quick news and notes segment. So tune in for those. You can find them all where you find podcasts. If they're, I find mine on Spotify, but pretty much anywhere you Google FSHD Radio Show, you'll find us. So today we have an amazing guest. There's a lot to unpack with this guest. I want to get right to it. So I hope you're all comfortable, relaxed, and ready to listen as we welcome in Christel. Christel, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here, hanging tight, looking so patient as we hit our proper business points, as we enter the episode. Always like to do that. But I'm always excited to bring guests in. Everyone just gives us more information, more inspiration. And I think you're going to be giving us a lot. And I'm excited to welcome you. So tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe your FSHD story, and where are you calling us from or connecting us from?
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Yes, I'm calling in from South Africa. So I'm in one of the smaller towns called Pietermaritzburg. And yeah, I only found out quite late in my life that I had FSHD. And it was only in 2011 that I started showing bad winging of my scapula. And at that time, I had just come back from Thailand, my first visit to Thailand, and I'd also done work in the States on combating human trafficking. And I'd been in the States and then came back to South Africa, and then realized that my shoulder blade was winging on the right side quite dramatically, and I experienced quite a lot of pain. And I went to a physio and orthopedic surgeons, and they sent me for x-rays, and they said that they didn't know what was wrong. There was nothing structurally wrong. And they said I must exercise. But I had been exercising for most of my life. I've run 56-mile marathons. I've done bodybuilding. And so I've been very, very fit my whole life. And so the frustration with not being able to lift my arm on the right side was, I just kept thinking, I've just got to train harder, work that side a bit more. The pain got more extensive. And that started this journey of trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And I was approached, I'd seen 3 different orthopedic surgeons from 2011 until 2014. I was approached again by an organization in Thailand, a nonprofit, that wanted me to come in as a volunteer counselor, as I had done previously, and to counsel the girls that were rescued from child sex trafficking. And I jumped at that. I gave up my job as manager of a spa at that time, and I love that type of work, and am passionate about that, and stand for justice, and especially in children being abused and women being abused and men being abused. So I jumped at it and I resigned and off I went. And despite my pain, I thought, when I'm doing something that I love to do, the pain gets less. Wow. And I definitely wasn't going to let my pain or my situation get me down. So 2014, I went back off to Thailand and worked in a home that was mainly responsible for bringing the girls, teenagers. Our youngest was 11 years old, and the oldest was 7 years old. And so we had teams rescuing them, mainly a Thai rescue team, a few foreigners, and then they would bring these girls to our home. And I was based in Chiang Mai. And the organization had 3 homes in Thailand, and then numerous other homes in the Philippines, Dominican Republic, Vietnam, India, and these 3 homes that they had in Thailand, I was based in the one in Chiang Mai. And so my responsibility was basically to bring these girls to a place of wholeness emotionally, in as much as what they could become whole. And so I loved that, and that definitely did help me with my pain and with the symptoms that I kept experiencing. With the not being able to ride I rode one of these little motorbikes, but more of a moped type. In Thailand, and so I had to sit right at the front of the seat so that I could actually reach the handlebars, and right. So that was a struggle, but doing the work that I love to do really did help with the pain. And my symptoms started progressing on the left side, so my shoulder blade on the left side started winging pretty badly, and what brought me back to South Africa was that the home in Chiang Mai closed due to lack of funding. So I, as a volunteer, was responsible for my own funding. So I did that from a lot of my supporters all came from my friends and family in South Africa. And but because the home had closed, my visa and work permit in Thailand were all linked to this home. So I saw it almost as an opportunity. Okay, let me go back to South Africa and take care of my health for a while. So that was in December of 2017. So I'd been there in Thailand for 3.5 years. And so I started my search again for trying to find out what was wrong, what had happened. And I'd had one surgery in 2017 on one of my visits back home. And just when I'd got back to South Africa, I was told that the home was battling, and if I could find more funding, I should try that. So I had the surgery, my second surgery in end of 2017. First surgery I had in 2016 on my one visit home. Yeah. And both these surgeries failed. Oh man. And the doctors had no idea what was wrong. Wow. So yeah, it was all on my right side, that they'd done the surgeries thinking that my right side was the problem. But the less movement I could have on my right side as a result of the failed surgery, the left side had exactly the same problem. And obviously my neck was in greater pain. And then more symptoms started showing in my lower back, my core muscles. And so obviously I longed for my work back in Thailand, but I found that my life coaching then, I'd done numerous counseling courses, and I'd done a life coaching course in the interim. And so I opened up my own life coaching business, and that has helped me to be giving out in a way where it helps me to not focus on my own pain. And I see that sign behind me. It's hard to beat a person who never gives up. And that kind of has summed me up.
It sounds like it. I mean, my gosh. Well, first off, where I want to key in on, and thank you for sharing that, because that is a remarkable story. And I'm sure that, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm like locked in. Number one, I first, when you were done, I thought this could be a movie. I mean, this is incredible. The discovery of this disease, or what's wrong with you, that's part of it. And then kind of pushing that off to the side to kind of say, yeah, fine, I have this, or I have this issue, not sure what it is, pain, whatnot. And instead of, kind of cowering in a corner and just being like, whatever, life stinks, like, I'm going to go help people. Like, what? Like, how many people do that? Not too many. So it's very, very, very unique. What I was going to ask is, within the FSHD side of it, you went through a couple of surgeries. So that was before anybody diagnosed it as FSHD. Is that right?
That's right.
So they were hoping
so I'd had to
be a help.
Yeah, so I'd had those 2 failed surgeries. And then after my second surgery had failed in 2017, I was so disheartened, and I had a lot of anger towards God, because I'd always had a strong faith, and I still have a strong faith. But I was angry because I couldn't understand, why can't these doctors just get it right? Now I obviously realize, if with lack of knowledge, it's not their fault. And here in South Africa, they used to have research for FSHD before 1994, and then that it was too expensive, and so they a lot of the surgeons as well that were familiar with the FSHD left to go overseas. There was a large immigration that of doctors that left after 1994, and so I was in contact with the surgeon that had that understood my plight here in South Africa. He was in Cape Town, and I didn't have a medical insurance in South Africa. I only had medical insurance in Thailand. So he couldn't do my surgery. And he was familiar with he had heard of FSHD, but it was through a surgeon in the States at Mayo Clinic. And if I can mention him, I'd love to mention him, because he really helped me. It was Dr. Bassem Al Hassan, and he was with Mayo. He's since moved to Chicago. But I emailed him because a doctor in Cape Town had said he would try and find out more about FSHD, see how he could help me. But the surgeon that had actually operated on me, and that surgery failed, he'd never done the scapular fusion before. And so he had attempted scapular fusion, and it hadn't worked, and my sutures tore. So he basically just attached some metal to my rib cage and 3 of my ribs, and then tied sutures to these metal plates. and tied screws in, put screws into these rib cages. So in the hospital, they didn't know of, that I should wake up with a sling. And they told me I needed to wash myself because obviously the nursing staff is quite short-staffed. I was in a government hospital.
Yeah.
And so with that, I'd only been in ICU for 2 days. So on my second day in ICU, I was told I needed to wash myself. So I'm trying to reach for, my armpits and give myself a clean.
Yeah.
And my sutures tore.
Oh.
So I was still on morphine, and so it was only the pain only registered. I knew something was wrong. It didn't feel too good. And it was only once after my fourth day that the pain really got bad. And I went to go and see the doctor again, but the doctor was only coming back on leave the next day. So he'd taken off on the day after my surgery, he'd taken off to go on leave. And he also wasn't aware of why what could have gone wrong.
Yeah.
But from there, I then contacted Dr. Bassam, and I explained to him what had happened. And so he tried to get me into a hospital where I wouldn't be charged the theatre fees, and where he could actually operate. And he said he would do the surgery free of charge for me because of my situation. I would just need to find a flight to the country where he would be doing a conference.
Yeah.
And this all happened in 2018. He wanted to see me in, he suggested Mexico. And then he suggested, and that would be too expensive because I didn't have the dollar exchange rate to the rand was very poor for me. So I couldn't afford that because I was obviously still doing my volunteer work in Thailand in 2017 when he suggested this. 2018, I was working at a boarding establishment for young girls as their house mother. And I wasn't earning a salary that would have afforded me to go to Mexico. Then he suggested I might be able to go to, I think it was Spain. And that also, that was not affordable. 2009, end of 2018, he suggested, let's go to India. He would arrange it all so that he was doing a conference in India and it would cost me nothing other than my flight to India. And so my sister said she'd sponsor me. She came with the day. Sorry, this is quite a, it's quite a story.
Wow.
So my sister made plans to then fly with me to India. We were going to fly on the Monday, leave South Africa on the Monday. And on the Monday morning, we were leaving in the afternoon. The Monday morning, Dr. Bassam phones and he's in a panic. And I've been trying to email you and contact you. My visa still hasn't come through because he was Lebanese. And he was waiting for his visa in the States to arrive in the States, his visa for India. And there were complications there. And he said he still hasn't got his visa, but he hopes I don't have to fly. I said, my flight is non-refundable. I'm flying this afternoon. So he said, we'll keep praying. So anyway, my sister and I flew to India. We arrived on the Tuesday. Dr. Bassam was due to fly on Wednesday. My surgery was due for the Friday morning. And Wednesday came and went. I received a phone call from Dr. Bassam on Wednesday afternoon. The hospital received the phone call, actually the hospital in India, to say sadly he can't make it. So my sister and I were stuck in India for 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
I know. So why I say stuck in India, we didn't have the funds to obviously stay at hotels and all these places, and the flight back. I'd never been to India. My sister hadn't been to India. So we turned it into a glorified mission trip in India. But me being in pain, being on these tuk-tuks, bad taxis, it was a nightmare for me. But we saw lots of good miracles happen, healing miracles. And yet for me, I was still in my state. So that was also what added to my faith journey of, I don't understand. I'm not getting all of this.
Yeah.
Long story short, Dr. Bassem Al-Hassan felt so bad about that he said the next conference he's doing is in France, and a little town called Annecy. And if I could fly there, he could get the organization and the hospital conference fees to cover my flight. And he would do the surgery for me for nothing. So off I went in July of 2019. I went to have this other surgery, which he was going to do a proper scapular fusion for me. But after seeing my situation and standing in front of 700 doctors, he said to these doctors, because I was on stage and all of this, the night before the surgery, he wanted the opinion of all these 700 doctors that were coming to this conference. He wanted their opinion as to what they thought was wrong with me. Yeah. And unanimously, these 7 doctors put up their hand. They were doctors from all over the world at this conference. Yeah. And they stuck up their hands and said, FSHD, FSHD, FSHD. Wow. So Dr.
That's a diagnosis story right now. Yeah. That's the wildest one I've ever heard. Okay, so all right. Sorry to interrupt. Okay, go ahead.
No problem.
Yeah.
So off I went to have at least the surgery, and what Dr. Bassem had suggested, instead of doing scapular fusion, he was going to do a surgery that he'd only done 6 times, but it worked. And he took a hamstring out of my left leg, and tied my 2 shoulder blades together. So now I have my hamstring holding my shoulder blades together, supporting them. Although I still can't lift my shoulders higher than this, what it did is it stabilized my shoulders so that this shoulder that had fallen forward completely from my first failed surgery is now at least somewhat stable. You can still see here how that pops up.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's somewhat more stable, a lot more stable than what it was. Yeah. The pain is still a lot in my neck and obviously my back, and but it has stabilized me in my walking a lot more, because I was walking a lot more favoring my left side because my right side was so deformed, if I can say, from the failed surgeries.
Yeah.
And so here I am, very grateful to Dr. Bassem Al-Hassan that he at least could fix the stability problem to some extent. Yeah. I have still been in touch with him. He's amazing. I WhatsApp him and he gets back to me within a day. And he's at least been able to be there for moral support. When I say to him, is there anything is this unusual? Is this abnormal? I send him photographs of my back view so that he can see what's happening. Yeah. And basically there is nothing he could do other than give me another surgery to do the scapular fusion, because my hamstring, because I was so fit and flexible, the hamstring has stretched. So that's why this the shoulder is wanting to go back to kind of the position that it was in when the first failed surgery. Okay. They tied my bicep tendon, tied it to my chest muscle, and they put a strap to my shoulder blade to try and pull my shoulder blade back. but that didn't work because the button didn't hold. So that added to my pain.
Wow.
Yeah, so here I am, and am still, at least I can talk. At least I have a lot of joy.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, and then of course, I mean, that is remarkable. Just the things you had to overcome just to get to the point where, okay, he can give you some surgery, give you some relief. It's great that he's made that connection still and is holding on to it to kind of guide you through whatever the next steps may be. So you're probably really hoping that there's some type of treatment or cure to this thing.
I really am.
Quickly. Yeah. Yes.
I'm willing to do the exercise. I'm willing to do anything I can, but I'm working with a physio at the moment, and she's more there to, she can't help me with my movement because obviously the muscles have atrophied to such an extent that my core muscles have also been affected. And my walking's been affected, but she helps to unlock some of the tightness around my spine area, my L4 and L5 spine, those discs. They've also showing signs of degeneration just because of I don't know why, but it follows some of it. Yeah. But my physio is working with me to, and that's a miracle too, she's not charging me. So I understood my plight, and every week I go in, and for her, she said that this journey has really encouraged her and helped her because she, as a physio, likes to see things fixed and likes to fix things. And for me, she can't fix me. And so she just has to walk this journey with me. And so every week she hears what pain I'm experiencing, and she sees how she can relieve. And if by any chance there's any exercises she can show me to strengthen, like my glute muscles, or I do my own aqua program as exercise so that I can keep my legs strong. I go to the gym twice a week to do the weights, and 3 times a week I do the aqua exercises that help with my back pain and everything supple. And the weight training, because obviously I did bodybuilding, I know what to do for my legs, and I do weights that are light, but they can at least keep my muscles well toned and prevent the atrophying of those muscles as much as possible.
Wow. So this journey is definitely, and as well as working in the nonprofit world with helping those that have been sex trafficked in Thailand, you obviously have this calling. You've answered it time and time again, and you've transitioned then into life coaching too. So yes. Tell us a little bit about that transition and what has, if at all, I'm sure the answer is yes, it's helped feed that passion of being a life coach. But between the situations that you dealt with in Thailand and your own personal journey with FSHD and finding it and attacking it and trying to make yourself stronger, how have those two things helped translate into your life coaching work?
Sure, that's a wonderful question. Thank you. It's I think with the experience that I got from helping the girls in Thailand, it really helped me to understand how important the emotions are for our impacting our mental health as well as our physical bodies. And so this in my life coaching has helped a lot, because with the girls in Thailand, they had to numb, especially being so young and going through the experiences that they were forced into and what they had to do, and they had to numb their emotions. And with numbing their emotions, they numbed not only the emotions that were painful, but they also numbed the emotions that were joyful. and emotions that they could feel fear or feel excitement or feel joy. And actually experiencing that firsthand, seeing that they would just experience life in a way, they would smile, but not truly experience any joy, any excitement. To be Thai is that it's known as the land of smiles, but that's because any emotion other than smiling and happiness is considered weak. So they are raised with just dealing with life, and that their strong belief in karma and their next life has such a strong bearing on them that they believe that where they are at right now is where they are supposed to be because of what their previous life has brought upon them. Wow. So they have this amazing ability to just accept life as it is, but although they don't like it and they experience so much pain that I had to help them, or want them to process and release. I had to first of all help them to get in touch with their emotions again. And so, you know, pulling up little faces of like, okay, this is of a smiley face, and then a face that had like, you know, that sad face, like our emojis that we have.
Yeah.
And say, okay, tell me today, how do you feel? And then they could point, because they didn't know how to express, because they had to suppress. And I was in an abusive marriage for 13 years. And so I knew that I knew that feeling of having to just block my emotions off and numb those emotions. And so it was also such a healing process for me, because while I was helping them, I was actually also helping myself to get in touch with my feelings and my emotions. And so it was just such a journey for them and for me. And taking that into my life coaching now, I recognize how some of my clients, you know, when they have blocked off so much hardship in their lives, I can recognize it a lot easier, because I recognize the facial expressions of numbness. I recognize the avoiding patterns. And I have empathy with that, because I've experienced it myself. And I've also seen that it takes patience, it takes a journey, and it's not a quick fix. So in life coaching, as with psychology, but it's never. And what I love in my life coaching is that the difference between psychology and life coaching is that psychology, genuinely, you need to go to a psychologist, or you generally go to a psychologist because you have a problem that you want to work through, or you think that you might be depressed, or you think that you might have a certain problem that may be boxed by a psychological situation. But with life coaching, a person usually wants to see a life coach, or should see a life coach, because it's a wonderful opportunity to find out why you are stuck in a situation in your life. So you may find that you're not moving ahead, and yet you know what you should be doing to move ahead. You've set yourself goals, you've set this path that you want to walk on, and the new year starts, and oh wow, this is what I want to do. I want to lose weight. I want to start my business. I want to be a better mother, or I want to be a better father, or I want to find a partner to share my life with. But yet you're stuck, and you don't know why you're stuck. And so what life coaching does, and what I love to see happening, is we sort of look ahead and say, where do you want to be? What is your ideal? What do you see yourself doing, or what would you love to do? And then that is our benchmark, and that's where we're heading. But while you're going there, in the process, in the questioning process, in the talking process, you find out what has happened that has caused you stuck. And it usually is linked to belief systems. And this is where so we believe things about ourselves that are deeply in our subconscious, and they usually do happen, and those belief systems are set in our childhood, and it's all beliefs about ourselves, not about ourselves, about other people, and it's linked with our values. Mm-hmm. And because we're not born with values, and we're not born with beliefs, so those are usually set at a young age by our peers, by our parents, by the things we hear, by the things we experience. And so it's our worldview that is conditioned based on what we experience in our childhood and mm-hmm. growing up. And so this is how our beliefs are formed. And those are set deep in our subconscious mind. And like with the girls, and they believe, and it comes from the type of Buddhism that they practice, that they practice a Theravada Buddhism belief. It's one of the types of Buddhism, Buddhist beliefs that they have, and we've got there's many Buddhist beliefs in Tibet, and obviously the more modern Buddhist belief. But the Theravada belief system, Buddhist belief system, there's an unwritten law that says that for a girl to make merit and come back as something better in her next life, mm-hmm. she needs to provide financially for her family. Mm. So this is why Thailand is also known as the world's top 6 tourist destination, because there's such a vast market for it, because the girls believe that they need to make merit for their next life, and the younger they start, the more merit they can make and come back as something better in their next life. And they, from this belief system, they believe this from young. They are taught this, and it's carried through. So a girl is also, the government educates them free of charge up until 6th grade. So that's normally when they're 11, 12 years old. And after that, the parents, obviously, if they can't afford to send their daughters, they will then encourage them to go to the towns. And this is where the traffickers come in, because they then say to the parents that they will educate the children, they'll take them, and they'll pay the parents money because they are losing out on their daughters working for them in the rice fields.
Yeah.
And so it's a belief system that they've had, and that has led to them being in the situation that they're in, believing that they're doing something good for their next life, but causing them to be trapped in a lifestyle that is damaging to themselves. And yet in our modern world, we do exactly the same thing, mm-hmm. but we don't know what belief systems are holding us back. So that's what I love to do in my, it's such a wonderful process to do, to help the client to discover what's holding them back. And it's just a journey, and it's a journey that I love to do together with my client, because it's not a quick fix. It's a journey of, let's discover together. Tell me a little bit about this. Tell me a little bit about that. Tell me how did that make you feel? And what do you think that made you believe about yourself?
What do you say to people that, they hear the term life coach? And I've gotten this response because I've actually had people tell me that they're surprised I don't do things like that, guiding people, and because I love to listen to people. Obviously I do this podcast, involves a lot of listening, and I love listening to people's stories and what they have to offer. So when you hear the people give maybe a reaction or see a reaction from them when you say, I'm a life coach, I do life coaching, do you ever get a negative response? Because speaking from my experience, I get a little bit of an eye roll sometimes, like, oh gosh, like I've I'm like, oh, like you're like a rah-rah guy, like
Yeah.
life is awesome and just keep walking forward kind of thing. And I'm like, what? So you ever get that?
It's interesting that you say that, because people immediately, they may have been joking with you before, or see you having fun or just being normal. And then suddenly when they say, oh, by the way, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm a life coach. Then suddenly, then they want to watch their behavior, and then they'll either stop talking or go and move and find another crowd, or they'll go like, oh, so that's why you're always so upbeat. But surely you can't be upbeat all the time. Right. And I'm like, no, actually, I wear my heart on my sleeve, but I know what it takes to get me to check myself out, because we go through all this, and I have hard days. I have arguments with my husband. I have I have irritation. I have anger, but I know, that, okay, it's not so, I must just go and breathe. I must go take a bit of a break, and then get myself together, understand why I'm feeling like this, ask myself, what is this trigger? What has triggered me like this? And then sometimes I get it right, sometimes I don't. But, being a life coach and being in your position where you've always on the radio, got to be like that. You don't wake up like that. Most mornings you've got to, like me, I don't wake up like this. I wake up, and it takes me to just say, all right, Christel, you're not feeling your best today. So what are you going to do about it? And usually it's like, well, I'm going to lie here for 5 minutes so that I can just sulk or just be, but after 5 minutes, my day's going to go, and it can only get better from here, because, it's a new day.
Yeah.
So,
So,
it's about being real and being
honest, right? Being honest with yourself. Yeah. I mean, this does suck. Yeah. There's no way around it, right? Okay. Exactly. So it sucks. All right. So what?
Exactly.
Now what are you gonna do? Now what are you gonna do? Yeah. Oh yeah. I tell people all the time, that. I mean, I've had my God love my brother. He is somebody that is pushing me towards like a life coach type thing. It's like, you should totally do something like that. Oh my gosh, blah blah blah. And he's a counselor. He is a social worker. He helps people all the time. Very similar to your personality style. And he says that all the time. It's like, you should do stuff like that. But then I'll tell people, I'm like one of the most negative people you'll ever meet. Like, I have to reprogram myself to go, no, we're not going down negative town again. You are almost a consistent residence there. You're resident there. You have to move out for a while of negative town and find something else, right? And I totally lock into what you're saying about it is your belief system. It's how maybe you were raised, or the environment you were around, or those kind of things. Your faith base, all that plugs in to where your path is kind of going. And the stuck word, oh my goodness, I've heard that. I've felt that. I feel it still. Yeah. How do you get unstuck? That is amazing advice. Here's a question I have then that I do like to ask, especially those that have FSHD, and someone in your position in what you do for a living and the impact you've obviously made on people's lives. But when it comes down to it, to me, FSHD has two sides. There's a physical, there's an emotional. What do you find is maybe giving you the most negative impact, the physical or the mental?
It works. It works so much together. And why I say that is that if I wake up in the morning and I'm in pain, I need to work that much harder on my emotions to get myself to that place where I just have to talk to myself, and I have to say, Christel, there's nothing you can do about it. It's, you've got to accept it. So the mental part and the emotional part, that it's affected, my emotions are affected by my physical state. And especially during the day when I have frustrations, with moving, and I've still got to lie down to get dressed. I've still got to, I can't put my shirts on, my dresses on, standing or sitting or like a normal person, or like I used to, let me put it that way, because my arms just won't go there. So I've still got to lie down. And when I'm in pain, then to try and get up, I've got to put my shoes on the floor. And so those type of things, there's some days where I'm grumpy to myself, and so it affects my emotional state, but my mental strength, that's where the mental strength comes in, which that I think is built up a lot by the things you tell yourself, the positive things you remind yourself of, my faith. So it's my mental state, my mental strength comes from having to feed myself with positive stuff, and that then impacts my emotions and impacts the way that I want to move my body. So a lot of the time, like I'll just say to my husband, I'll just say, oh, just excuse me, I'm just feeling grumpy. I just need a hug, or I just need. So it's the mental side, when I've prepped myself up and told myself it's okay, or got a hug, then my mental state says, all right, come, let's go, we can do this. And then it forces my body to move. But the two are definitely linked. So my body feels what body feels, and I've learned to not deny it, but to accept it. And that, I think, was the hugest struggle for me, was to recognize that with FSHD, that this is what I've got, and that there's no cure. They're working on it, but for now, it's what I've got to live with. And I didn't want to live with it. And so I fought within myself to accept it. And then I kept saying, well, God's going to heal me. I'm sure God's going to heal me. And then I'd kind of, fill my mind with promises of God, that, he's healed so many people, and this person's had a miracle, and that person's had a miracle. But I realized then that with doing that, my attitude and my mental state was saying, I'm not going to accept FSHD. I'm not going to accept my condition. I'm going to push it down, and I'm just going to force myself to be positive. And that wore me out. The forcing myself to, I just have to, I just must. I ended up, I just ended up frustrated, angry at myself, angry at God. And I'd say that it happened probably a year and a half ago, where I just surrendered. And I said, you know what, I'm okay with this. And this is why when I reached that stage, I thought, let me start a South African FSHD support group. And that's when I contacted the FSHD Society and was put on to June, was when I finally accepted, okay, this is what I have, this is what I'm going to live with. And you know what? Ask God for a miracle, and it could still happen. But in the meanwhile, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to join other people in this journey, and see if there can't be a support group for South Africa, and let's see what we can do with that. And then that's given me that encouragement every day to just say, all right, I'm accepting it, and let me just work with it, as opposed to trying to ignore it and ignore what my body's feeling, but instead accept it. My body feels painful today. It's okay. What am I going to do about it? Mind, what are we going to do about this? So working with my body, and recognizing that my mind, if I keep that strong, that can help motivate my body, because my body is actually weaker than my mind.
That's awesome, man. That's good advice. Holy smokes. That's like a free life coach session you just gave us. Thank you. So to kind of close the conversation, which pains me. So I don't think I'm gonna lose your email here, because I'm probably gonna continue to connect with you beyond this platform.
That would be lovely.
Where can people find more about either the FSHD group that you've started there in South Africa, or maybe what you're doing with life coaching? And I really wanted that opportunity for you to share that with those that are listening, because they might feel the same way I do, that they might want to make that connection with you, for those that need help, because you can relate.
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, my email address is Christel, CHRISTEL @wholehearted living coaching, all one word, .co.za. And I'm busy working on my website, having my website redone, because I changed my name at the beginning of this year to Wholehearted Living Coaching. And that was because I really felt like the place that I'm in right now, I have this desire to just live my life wholeheartedly, and that matched my personality and the place where I'm at far more than Christel Rohrs coach I was before, because Christel Rohrs was my maiden name, and I only got married in 2020. Jeepers, where are we now? 2019. No, 2020. Oh my goodness, my husband's he's supposed to be the one that forgets. It's 2020. I had a chance at love again. So after 20 years, I'm divorced 21 years this year, and married for almost 2 years. So I've now renamed my coaching business to Wholehearted Living Coaching. So my website will be up and running in March, 1st of March.
Nice.
And Christel at wholeheartedlivingcoaching.co.za is my email address. And there is, I'm also a Facebook page that is under my name, Christel Rohrs Vero, and then obviously from there you can go to my Facebook business page, which is Wholehearted Living Coaching.
Beautiful. I suggest everyone jump on that right when we're done. That's awesome. Thank you very much, Christel, for joining us, spending the time. The story was amazing. If you don't write a book about this, I don't know what else you're doing, or, then it's going to get picked up as a movie. Oh my goodness. This is amazing. Thank you very much for sharing all of it with us. We might have to have you back on, especially once that site is up and running. Maybe we'll kind of just key in on the life coaching side of it, but I'd love to have you back.
Lovely. Thank you so much. And thank you for this opportunity of hopefully being an inspiration to others. And thank you. I really appreciate your inspiration as well. And I think you'd make a great life coach, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Thank you. My brother loves you saying that. Thanks.
You're good at listening.
Thanks, Christel.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. So that is Christel. She is amazing life coach person. Just amazing. I mean, the story is incredible. I mean, I just can't get over it. The journey, when so many would probably give up, she kept going. So for those that are thinking about that, don't. And that's kind of where I'm going to take our little break, kind of recollect my thoughts a little bit. I got some kind of key points that I, want to pull from this conversation with Christel. So let's take a break and regroup. You're listening to FSHD Society Radio Show. Today's podcast is sponsored by PerkinElmer Genomics, a market leader in biochemical and genomic testing solutions. PerkinElmer Genomics understands that obtaining a confirmed genetic diagnosis for FSHD can be difficult and frustrating experience for both patients and their families. That's why their laboratory prides itself on launching new and innovative technologies to help families find answers that they are looking for. Just over a year ago, PerkinElmer Genomics introduced the first new diagnostic approach to FSHD type 1 genetic testing in nearly 3 decades. This testing has drastically decreased the time to diagnose while increasing accessibility to patients. Knowing the underlying cause of FSHD can have important implications for the entire family, including help with future medical management decisions. Speak with your provider today and learn more about how you can get testing. Visit PerkinElmerGenomics.com to find out more about available testing options for FSHD and other related neuromuscular disorders that may help you and your family today. That's PerkinElmer Genomics.com. Welcome back to the show, FSHD Society Radio Show. Thanks for being here, spending some time with us. We had an amazing conversation with Christel Rohrs. I don't want to forget her new married name. I did already. Doggone it. Vero. Vero is her name. Oh my gosh. I'm just blown away by the story, folks. I just am. And there's some key points that I wanted to pull out of it. One is the fact that, she stands for justice in her own physical journey of trying to figure out what's wrong with her. 2 surgeries, one did not work out well at all, as we all heard. I was very uncomfortable hearing the description of the stitches releasing and all that. Oh my goodness. Yet still finds that she's going to be called to go to Thailand to help with sex trafficking, and then giving us why that happens, and the mentality behind it all was just crazy. And then to just know that there's this one theme that came up for me, and it's a little bit stolen from those that maybe know or don't know him or who he was. Jim Valvano. He had an amazing speech at the ESPN Awards. I think it was at the ESPYs, and you can YouTube it if you haven't ever seen the speech. But basically, it's been titled, "Don't ever give up. Don't give up. Don't ever give up." That's all I kept thinking about in her story. She even pointed out the sign up behind me. It's hard to beat somebody that never gives up. That is the truth. But it's hard to find the mental fortitude, the emotional strength, the push through, all of that for what, why do I keep going? Why should I keep going? There's 100 reasons in your head to say. So you don't listen to that. Speak out loud the positive affirmation to yourself of why you want to push forward. Every once in a while, someone will catch me speaking out loud to myself, and they'll kind of look at me like I'm crazy. No, sometimes I need to talk to myself and not listen to myself. Talking to myself, telling out loud, yes, listen to that outward voice. This is how we're going to do this. This is how we're going to push forward. Don't listen to the internal voice that tells you can't. That's something that we have to do and come into practice with. So that was my takeaway. Life coaching. Definitely have strongly thought about it myself. And I'll be definitely contacting Christel, which I think a lot of you might want to, because this is somebody that can relate to what we're dealing with, have the insight for it, and the, of course, expertise to guide you through your life with it. Amazing. We're going to take one more quick break. When we come back on the other side, we'll close up shop and tell you a little bit about the happenings in June. And listening to FSHD Society Radio Show. Today's FSHD Society Radio Show is sponsored by Fulcrum Therapeutics. Fulcrum is a clinical stage biopharmaceutical company based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, advancing new medicines that target the root cause of genetically defined rare diseases such as FSHD and sickle cell disease. Fulcrum's approach to drug discovery combines insights from patients with rare diseases with the most advanced tools to identify and develop therapeutics that will target the root cause. For several years, Fulcrum has been honored to work with the FSHD community in efforts to build awareness of the impact of FSHD on individuals and families. Fulcrum works in partnership with leaders from the patient advocacy and medical communities to highlight the impact of rare diseases and support continued research. You can connect with Fulcrum on LinkedIn and follow them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Fulcrum TX. Welcome back to the show, FSHD Society Radio Show. Thanks for hanging with us. It's a little bit of a longer episode, so I hope you don't mind. But that guest was amazing. And Christel gave us a lot of amazing stories, things of inspiration. You can find more about her. Follow her maybe on Facebook to start with. Christel Rohrs Bureau is the Facebook path, which also then leads to the wholehearted living life coaching. And that's all linked on her Facebook as well. So that's probably the best path. She has an FSHD Society group in South Africa. That's amazing. I love her accent, by the way. Another final thought, though, too, is what's happening in June. Coming up in June. Big, exciting events in June. I'm going to scroll to it. It is the 29th Annual International Research Congress. That's happening. The premier global scientific conference exclusively focused on FSHD. So check that out. That's all on FSHDsociety.org. Then the other big FSHD Connect, 18th and 19th. And then, of course, it piggybacks off of or prior to the FSHD World FSHD Day on the 20th. All right in there. That's just a huge stretch of time. This is all happening in Florida. FSHD Connect is the FSHD Society's flagship educational conference held every 2 years. It is the world's biggest networking event for FSHD. It brings together hundreds of individuals and families living with FSHD muscular dystrophy, clinicians, researchers for 2 days of immersive learning and workshops. So it is the place to be. Register and learn more on FSHDsociety.org. All you have to do, guys, is hit the calendar, click over to June. It's right there, all your information for you. Wanted to also thank our other sponsor, Optum. Go to optum.com. It just creates a healthier world. Okay. It is one site, one connection, one person at a time is how they're making a difference. At optum.com, all your health needs, all in one place, changing healthcare for the better. Visit optum.com. Thank you, Optum, for being a sponsor of this show. And thank you all for listening. And thank you for Christel Rohrs for being with us. So much to unpack there. I'm going to connect with her after for sure. Definitely dabbled with the life coach idea. I don't know. We'll see. I'd love to hear from you, though, about other maybe guests you want on the show. Maybe you want to be a part of the show yourself. Maybe you think you have something to offer. Maybe you just want to connect. You can do that with FSHD Radio at FSHDsociety.org, the email address for this show. Please do so. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much all for being here. Being a part of this episode has just been so much fun for me. Being a part of the show every month is also a lot of fun. And how you can find this show is very, very easy, right? All you have to do is visit any podcast platform. Just search FSHD Radio Show, or even just Google that. I find it on Spotify, and that's kind of where I go for my podcast, but you'll find us there too. Past shows, this show, so many others. Share it with your friends. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks for being here. Thanks for spending the time with me. We'll see you next time on the FSHD Society Radio Show.